The Middle East, home to some of the world's oldest civilizations, has been at the heart of geopolitics, religion, and trade for millennia. But beyond the historical significance, the region is an intricate tapestry of cultures, languages, and conflicts that still share global affairs today. From the bustling cities of Dubai and Istanbul to the ancient ruins of Mesopotamia and the heart of the Islamic world in Mecca, this region is a land of contrasts, both ancient and modern. It bridges Africa and Eurasia, a crossroads that has long attracted the attention of the world's superpowers. But what is it about the Middle East that makes it so crucial to not just its own people, but to the global stage? Why has it held such an important place in history, and how does it continue to impact economies, politics, and even the environment today? In this video, we will take you through the story of the Middle East, a region that has shaped and been shaped by the rise and fall of empires, the spread of religions, and the thirst for resources. From the creation of some of the world's first urban centers in Mesopotamia to the emergence of new powers fueled by the vast wealth of oil, we'll explore how the region's geography, culture, and politics intertwine to create one of the most fascinating yet complex areas in the world. The Middle East is a geopolitical region encompassing the Arabian Peninsula, the Levant, Turkey, Egypt, and Iran. Geographically, the Arabian Peninsula includes Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Yemen, Iraq, and Jordan. The Levant includes present-day Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, and the northern Syrian regions. The Middle East's overwhelming characteristic is that it represents the land bridge between Africa and Eurasia, which is the largest continental area on Earth, comprising all of Europe and Asia. Other concepts of the region exist, including the broader Middle East and North Africa, or MENA, and Greater Middle East. The MENA is a geographic region which compromises the Middle East and North Africa together. The most common definition for North Africa's boundaries include Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, Tunisia, and the Western Sahara. The term the Greater Middle East also includes parts of East Africa, Mauritania, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and sometimes the South Caucasus and Central Asia. Let's now focus our attention on the terminology. The term Middle East may have originated in the 1850s in the British India Office. However, it became more widely known when United States naval strategist Alfred Thayer Mahan used the term in 1902 to designate the area between Arabia and India. During this time, the British and Russian empires were vying for influence in Central Asia, a rivalry that would become known as the Great Game. Britain feared Russia's southward expansion would threaten India, while Russia feared the expansion of British interests into Central Asia. As a result, Britain made it a high priority to protect all approaches to India, while Russia continued its military conquest of Central Asia. U.S. naval strategist Alfred Mahan realized not only the strategic importance of the region, but also of its center, the Persian Gulf. He labeled the area surrounding the Persian Gulf as the Middle East. He said that, beyond Egypt's Suez Canal, the Gulf was the most important passage for Britain to control in order to keep the Russians from advancing towards British India. Until World War II, it was customary to refer to areas centered around Turkey and the eastern shore of the Mediterranean as the Near East, while the Far East centered on China, India, and Japan. With the collapse of the Ottoman Empire in 1918, Near East largely fell out of common use in English, while Middle East came to be applied to the emerging independent countries of the Islamic world. The Middle East was then defined as the area from Mesopotamia to Burma, namely the area between the Near East and the Far East. In the late 1930s, the British established the Middle East Command, which was based in Cairo, for its military forces in the region. After that time, the term Middle East gained broader usage in Europe and the United States. This next section, which is the bulk of today's video, is going to focus on the history of the Middle East. The Middle East lies at the juncture of Africa and Eurasia, and of the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. This distance is almost as wide as the distance between your mouse and the subscribe button, something you should definitely be clicking right now if you want to keep up more great content. It is the birthplace and spiritual center of religions such as Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Yazidi, Druze, Yarsan, and Mandaeanism. Throughout its history, the Middle East has been a major center of world affairs, making it a strategic, economic, political, cultural, and religiously sensitive area. This region is one of the regions where agriculture was independently discovered, and from the Middle East it was spread during the Neolithic to different regions of the world such as Europe, the Indus Valley, and Eastern Africa. Prior to the formation of civilizations, advanced cultures formed all over the Middle East during the Stone Age. The search for agricultural lands by agriculturalists and pastoral lands by herdsmen meant different migrations took place within the region and shaped its ethnic and demographic makeup. The Middle East is widely and most famously known as the cradle of civilization. The world's earliest civilizations, Mesopotamia, which involves Sumer, Akkad, Assyria, and Babylonia, ancient Egypt, and Kish in the Levant all originated in the Fertile Crescent and Nile Valley regions of the ancient Near East. These were followed by the Hittite, Greek, Hurrian, and Urartian civilizations of Asia Minor, the Elam, Persia, and Median civilizations in Iran, as well as the civilizations of the Levant, such as Ebla, Mari, Nagar, Ugarit, Canaan, Aramea, Mitanni, Phoenicia, and Israel, and the Arabian Peninsula, Magan, Sheba, and Ubar. The Near East was first largely unified under the Neo-Assyrian Empire, then the Achaemenid Empire, followed later by the Macedonian Empire, and after this to some degree by the Iranian empires, the Roman Empire, and the Byzantine Empire. This region serves as the intellectual and economic center of the Roman Empire and played an exceptionally important role due to its periphery on the Sassanid Empire. Thus, the Romans stationed up to 5 or 6 of their legions in the region for the sole purpose of defending it from Sassanid and Bedouin raids and invasions. From the 4th century onwards, the Middle East became the center of the two main powers of the time, the Byzantine Empire and the Sassanid Empire. However, it would be the later Islamic Caliphates of the Middle Ages, or Islamic Golden Age, which began with the Islamic conquest of the region in the 7th century AD, that would first unify the entire Middle East as a distinct region and create the dominant Islamic Arabic ethnic identity that largely, but not exclusively, persists today. The 4 caliphates that dominated the Middle East for more than 600 years were the Rashidun Caliphate, the Umayyad Caliphate, the Abbasid Caliphate, and the Fatimid Caliphate. Other powerful empires that controlled the region included the Mongols that would come to dominate the region, the Kingdom of Armenia, which would incorporate parts of the region to their domain, the Seljuks that would rule the region and spread Turco-Persian culture, and the Franks that would found the Crusader states that would stand for roughly 2 centuries. Josiah Russell estimates the population of what he calls Islamic territory as roughly 12.5 million in 1000 AD. From the 16th century onwards, the Middle East came to be dominated once again by 2 main powers, the Ottoman Empire and the Safavid dynasty. The modern Middle East began after World War I, where the Ottoman Empire, which was allied with the Central Powers, was defeated by the British Empire and their allies and partitioned into a number of separate nations, initially under British and French mandates. Other defining events in this transformation include the establishment of Israel in 1948 and the eventual departure of European powers, notably Britain and France by the end of the 1960s. They were supplanted, in some part, by the rising influence of the United States from the 1970s onwards. In the 20th century, the region's significant stocks of crude oil gave it a new strategic and economic importance. Mass production of oil began around 1945, with Saudi Arabia, Iran, Kuwait, Iraq, and the United Arab Emirates having large quantities of oil. Estimated oil reserves, especially in Saudi Arabia and Iran, are some of the highest in the world, and the International Oil Cartel, or OPEC, is dominated by Middle Eastern countries. During the Cold War, the Middle East was a theater of ideological struggle between the 2 superpowers at the time and their allies, NATO and the United States on one side and the Soviet Union and Warsaw Pact on the other, as they competed to influence regional allies. Besides the political reasons, there was also the ideological conflict between the 2 systems. Moreover, as Louise Fawcett argues, among many important areas of contention, or perhaps more accurately of anxiety, were first the desires of the superpowers to gain strategic advantage in the region. Second, the fact that the region contained some 2/3 of the world's oil reserves, in a context where oil was becoming increasingly vital to the economy of the Western world. Within this contextual framework, the United States sought to divert the Arab world from Soviet influence, and throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, the region has experienced both periods of relative peace and tolerance and periods of conflict, particularly between the Sunnis and Shiites. Shifting gears, let's talk about the languages that dominate the Middle East. In fact, the only language that you should be thinking right now in your head is the subscribe button, which is coming to you in a vivid imagination, perhaps to click for more great content. The Middle East is a linguistically diverse region, home to a rich tapestry of languages spoken by millions. The top 6 languages in terms of speakers are Arabic, Persian, Turkish, Kurdish, Hebrew, and Greek, alongside several minority languages. Arabic, the most widely spoken language, has various dialects and is the official language in most North African and West Asian countries. Literary Arabic unites these regions, while dialects of Arabic extended to neighboring non-Arab countries. Semitic languages like Aramaic are also present, spoken by the Assyrians and Mandaeans, particularly in Syria. In Yemen and Oman, the modern South Arabian languages such as Mehri and Sokotri are used, while the Oasis Berber language, Siwa, is spoken by a small community in Egypt. Persian is the second most spoken language, primarily in Iran, one of the largest and most populous countries in the region. It belongs to the Indo-Iranian branch of Indo-European languages. Persia's influence extends into neighboring areas with other Western Iranic languages like Kurdish dialects and Lurish spoken across the region. Turkish, the third most spoken language, dominates Turkey and is widely used in some neighboring countries. It belongs to the Turkic language family with roots in East Asia. The Azerbaijani language, another Turkic language, is spoken by the Azerbaijanis, especially in Iran. Kurdish, spoken in parts of Iraq, Turkey, Syria, and Iran, holds significant political importance in Iraq, where Sorani Kurdish is an official language. Kurdish dialects play a key role in regional identity and politics. Hebrew, the official language of Israel, is spoken by over 80% of the population, with Arabic being the language of the remaining 20%. Although modern Hebrew is a relatively recent development, revived in the 19th and 20th centuries by Eliezer ben Yehuda, it has become integral to Israeli identity and culture. Greek, spoken in Cyprus, is the country's official language, and historically, it was common in parts of the Middle East until the rise of Turkish-speaking populations in Anatolia. Greek was once the lingua franca in much of the Western Middle East during antiquity. The region also has a range of minority languages, including Armenian, Georgian, and Russian, spoken by diaspora communities. Russian, particularly, has become prevalent in Israel due to a significant wave of emigration in the late 1990s. Other languages such as French, English, and even Maltese are also present due to historical colonial influences and immigrant populations. Additionally, migrant communities in the Middle East speak languages like Bengali, Hindi, and Urdu, particularly in countries with large South Asian populations, such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. In summary, the Middle East linguistic diversity reflects its complex cultural and historical layers, with Arabic, Persian, and Turkish that dominate the region. As mentioned before, though, the region hosts a wide array of minority and immigrant languages, adding to its rich linguistic landscape. Middle Eastern economies range from being very poor, such as Gaza and Yemen, to extremely wealthy nations, such as Qatar and the UAE. According to the International Monetary Fund, the three largest Middle Eastern economies in nominal GDP in 2023 were Saudi Arabia at 1.06.2 trillion, Turkey at 1.029 trillion, and Israel at 539 billion. The economic structure of Middle Eastern nations are different in the sense that while some nations are heavily dependent on export of only oil and oil-related products such as Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, others have a highly diverse economic base such as Cyprus, Israel, Turkey, Egypt, and the UAE. Industries of the Middle Eastern region include oil and oil-related products, agriculture, cotton, cattle, dairy, textiles, leather products, surgical instruments, and defense equipment, which include guns, ammunitions, tanks, submarines, fighter jets, UAVs, and missiles. Banking is also an important sector of the economies, especially in the case of UAE and Bahrain. With the exception of Cyprus, Turkey, Egypt, Lebanon, and Israel, tourism has been a relatively underdeveloped area of the economy, in part because of the socially conservative nature of the region as well as political turmoil in certain regions of the Middle East. In recent years, however, countries such as the UAE, Bahrain, and Jordan have begun attracting greater number of tourists because of improving tourist facilities and the relaxing of tourism-related restrictive policies. Unemployment is notably high in the Middle East and North Africa region, particularly among young people aged 15 to 29, a demographic representing 30% of the region's total population. Back in 2005, the total regional unemployment rate, according to the International Labour Organization, was 13.2%, and among youth as high as 25%, up to 37% in Morocco and 73% in Syria. Next up, let's discuss migration, as migration has always provided an important vent for labor market pressures in the Middle East. For the period between the 1970s and 1990s, the Arab states of the Persian Gulf in particular provided a rich source of employment for workers from Egypt, Yemen, and the countries of the Levant, while Europe had attracted young workers from North African countries due to both the proximity and the legacy of colonial ties between France and the majority of North African states. According to the International Organization for Migration, there are 13 million first-generation migrants from Arab nations in the world, of which 5.8 reside in other Arab countries. Expatriates from Arab countries contribute to the circulation of financial and human capital in the region, and thus significantly promote regional development. In 2009, Arab countries received a total of $35.1 billion in remittance inflows and remittances sent to Jordan, Egypt, and Lebanon from other Arab countries. This figure is 40 to 190% higher than trade revenues between these and other Arab countries. In the last section of today's video, we're going to discuss the climate of the Middle Eastern region. The Middle East generally has a hot, arid climate climate, especially in the Arabian and Egyptian regions. Several major rivers provide irrigation to support agriculture on limited areas here, such as the Nile Delta in Egypt, the Tigris and Euphrates watersheds in Mesopotamia, and the basin of the Jordan River that spans most of the Levant. These regions are collectively known as the Fertile Crescent and comprise the core of what historians had long referred to as the cradle of civilization. Conversely, the Levantine coast and most of Turkey have relatively temperate climates, typical of the Mediterranean, with dry summers and cool, wet winters. Most of the countries that border the Persian Gulf have vast resources of petroleum. Monarchs of the Arabian Peninsula in particular have benefited economically from petroleum exports. Because of the arid climate and dependence on the fossil fuel industry, the Middle East is both a major contributor to climate change and a region that is expected to be severely adversely affected by it. The impacts include increase in drought conditions, aridity, heat waves, and sea level rise. Climate change is expected to put significant strain on already scarce water and agricultural resources within the MENA region, threatening the national security and political stability of all included countries. Over 60% of the region's population lives in high and very high water-stressed areas, compared to the global average of 35%. This has prompted some MENA countries to engage with the issue of climate change on an international level through environmental accords such as the Paris Agreement. Law and policy are also being established on a national level amongst MENA countries with a focus on the development of renewable energies. I want to thank everyone who made it to the end of today's video, whose intellectual curiosity allowed them to learn more about the terminology, history, language, economy, migration, and climate of the Middle East. As always, you know where to find me. Like and subscribe for more great content. You won't be disappointed. See you in the next video, guys. Thanks so much.